Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
All right, big bonus show coming up today, Lewis. We'll be talking about this new Florida bestiality law, which might have inadvertently outlawed sex altogether. We'll also talk about a mother who's given her 8-year-old daughter Botox. And John McCain actually saying, you know what? Torture actually didn't help get Osama bin Laden. So davidpakman.com/membership. You'll also get the regular podcast commercial free, access to, at this point, we're closing in on 5.5 years of archived shows. It's really it's a lot of stuff, I have to say. davidpakman.com/membership. I was asking myself, is Harry Reid, Democratic senator from Nevada, finally getting a backbone? And what I mean is this, that John Boehner proposed that the debt ceiling not be lifted. And when I say proposed, really I should be saying demanded, that the debt ceiling not be lifted unless the government can reduce spending by $2 trillion. And Democrats, including Harry Reid, are actually calling John Boehner's bluff now. This is fantastic. Reid actually said to Boehner, if you want $2 trillion in cuts, let's start with oil and gas tax breaks and subsidies. Obvious. Why haven't we heard this sooner, Lewis? Probably because most Democrats are also bought by the oil and gas lobbies.
Of course.
Senate Democratic leadership is asking Boehner to reaffirm support for ending tax breaks to 5 of the top oil companies as part of this quest for federal savings. And Harry Reid said, you can't talk about cuts without first looking at eliminating the giveaways to big oil. That's where it should start.
Why punish success, Dave? Why punish success?
Oh, here we go. Why give welfare if it's not needed, right? I mean, oil companies are if we look at the definition of welfare queen, which is not even really a term that I find to be too polite, but let me just give you the fact that the term exists. If you really want to look at welfare queens, it's the oil and gas companies that are receiving the subsidies that they do not need.
Of course, I was just playing devil's advocate.
Well, it's a non-starter for Boehner anyway. I mean, he sees ending a subsidy as a tax hike. It's amazing what is seen as a tax hike for many Republicans. I have a plan, Lewis, that I would like to throw out. It's a very simple plan, okay? It's 3 steps. And the steps are just, I feel almost silly even having to outline them because it's just so obvious that these would serve the interests of the people as opposed to big corporations, which I know is not the goal of the government, clearly. Number 1, reduce foreign military aid to many of the countries which we often end up fighting anyway, okay, as we know from history. And we do these quid pro quos, Lewis, where we give military aid and then force the country to spend 95% of it back on weapons from American companies. It's a quid pro quo that's completely corrupt. It's a farce. It needs to end right away.
Okay, I'm with you on that one.
Number 2, let's finally close some bases. Let's close 10 in Germany. We'll have 40 left. We'll be okay. Right? I mean, 40 bases in Germany hopefully can still keep us safe.
So I think this is a more realistic number 1.
Let's close a handful in the UK. We don't need all of the bases in the UK. Let's just start closing some bases. This NPR is a drop in the bucket, ladies and gentlemen, compared to this. And number 3, let's stop the subsidies to oil companies and put 25% of that subsidy money into alternative energy development, whether it's the government doing it or whether it is subsidizing alternative energy development, not by these major oil companies, okay? I'm talking about where the real innovation is taking place. Oil companies make enough, and we should be getting off of oil anyway. Stop the subsidies. These are 3 steps that will make it laughable to even talk about NPR, because we'll say, are you NPR? Look at these other 3 things we're doing. NPR is completely inconsequential in context.
Mm-hmm. But you're not going to stop anybody from talking about NPR.
No, of course.
Or cutting funding for park services or anything of the sort.
Planned Parenthood, et cetera.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you're not going to get away from those issues.